This is The Instigators, presented by Seneca Resorts and Casinos. Nothing else comes close.
We are going to overtime!
Fresh off the holiday weekend, great to be diving back in, Marty, with another Instigators Overtime. Thanks to our friends at Seneca Resorts and Casinos. Hope everyone is well. Although, when saying that, knowing full well at this time of year, it's especially hard for defensemen to feel pretty good about their bodies. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, it's so hard. I watched guys just battling. Sam Girardi with a broken sternum in the first round. Like, I mean,
what did you feel in that moment when you saw that collision on the boards?
Oh, dude, I had a bruised sternum. I couldn't get out of bed for a few days. Like, imagine a broken sternum. And then he shows up at practice the next day in his dress pants and shirt, just watching practice. That's incredible. Ryan Lindgren of the New York Rangers, he's missed times in games 3 times in the playoffs, only to return. Like, usually a guy leaves to the locker room, you get he's doubtful or he's out for the rest of the game. With Lindgren, he always comes back. Like, it's just, to me, the level that these guys can continue to play at injured, amazing.
Well, we, for obvious reasons, have had a fixation on the Sabres blue line based on the talent that is currently there, the future that lies ahead for so many of these guys. And you're always wondering what little intangibles are they going to bring to the table and who else is going to round out that group of 6 as a warrior type, if you will. Every team needs them. And that's why it's a great opportunity on this week's podcast to be able to talk to development coach Dan Girardi. There's a story about that we'll dive into. And when you're serious about the game, bet on Buffalo at the only sports books in Western New York. Seneca Resorts and Casinos betting counters are open daily, and self-service betting kiosks are available 24/7 at all 3 locations, whether you visit Seneca Niagara or Buffalo Creek or Allegheny. The Sports Lounge features the latest lines and multiple screens, so you never miss a play. The sports books at Seneca Resorts and Casinos, where the love of the game meets the thrill of the win. Dan, I can only imagine that this is a difficult time still for you to be watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, having, just recently removed yourself from the playing action. Yes, you're in a development role with the Sabres, but what is it like emotionally when you now see a Ranger Tampa matchup this round?
Well, it's been pretty crazy the last couple of years, obviously, watching all my former friends and buddies and teammates, win a couple of cups without me. So that's been a little tough, but, very happy for those guys. And obviously the Rangers have really, turned it around this year, and they're playing great hockey. It's going to be quite the series. People have been asking me who I want to win or whatever, and I just I don't really know. I think it's going to be some pretty serious hockey, and obviously going to be a goaltending battle for the ages here.
So Duffer absolutely loves Ryan Lindgren of the Rangers. How do you feel when your good buddy Ryan Callahan tweets Ryan Girardi Lindgren on Twitter the other night, because he was such a warrior, left the game, came back in Game 7. So how do you feel when your buddies still think of you as this warrior?
It's actually pretty special. I know what kind of what people think about me, but it's good when you hear it, still, 3 years out, getting comparisons, I do watch Ryan Lindgren a lot when I'm not doing the Buffalo stuff. And, I actually met him really quick at the Ranger game when they did Hank's jersey ceremony. So I'm pretty sure he had no idea who I was or what I was even talking about. I said, "Hey, I love your game. I really respect it." Obviously because we play very similar, but yeah, it's pretty cool to draw some comparisons there.
How would you describe Lindgren?
I think he does everything well. I think he's a perfect fit for Fox. I haven't been watching too closely. I know they played together for a lot during the regular season, and obviously they're going to play Fox a ton in the playoffs, so he might not play with them all the time. But I think he does, like I said, does all the little things well defensively, contribute offensively. Is hard on the puck, hard on the body, willing to eat pucks. What I felt like I did for McDonough, what I did for Hedman a little bit in my time in Tampa, and those big time top guys need a little safety valve back there. And I believe, Lindgren does have that quality.
I did say that you did that for McDonough on the Instigators on Tuesday, I believe. So I'm glad that you bring it up. But I also said it's a little bit kind of like Matthias Samuelsson is doing for Rasmus Dahlin right now, where, you find a perfect match or a match that you think will work because the two are very different. Like Fox and Lindgren are very different. Dahlin and Samuelsson are very different. So what do you think of that? Samuelsson and what he was able to do with Dahlin, especially down the stretch before the season ended.
How long do we have to talk about Sammy? This guy is an absolute beast out there. Kind of the same idea, right? Like you just said, he's like that stabilizing force for Dolls. Dolls can kind of do his thing, knowing that, hey, Sammy's there, even if he's not close to the guy, he takes 2 strides and he's killing that play just for his length and reach and strength. And, I really like watching Sammy last year when I was on the bench with him, and then how he's grown this year. And, he's taken the next step, and he's a serious NHL defenseman. And I know a lot of people feel the same way in the coaches room there. And we're very fortunate in Buffalo to have so many great guys in the back end that, we could talk about for days, but obviously excited for Sammy and Dolls and all the rest of the guys back there for next season.
Dan, so what are some of the tricks of the trade for a guy like Samuelsson that is inevitably going to eat so many minutes, be put in situations like we saw at the end of the Prospects Challenge Game 1, when he blocks a shot with a minute to go, which then derails the start of his regular season because of injury. And we're going to see what happened at the end of the year, where he's doing everything possible. And then he comes out of the season pretty dinged up and doesn't get to play in the playoffs with Rochester. You've lived this experience. So how do you approach it? Like, what little things can you tell him to not change him, but protect him?
Yeah. It's hard. I think the first thing for him is maybe add a little padding around the foot area, maybe. Nothing crazy. I didn't wear anything around my skates for a long time. And then, Marty knows Cass there in New York, and, he started making these things for the outside of the skates, like some shot blocker stuff. So, started wearing those, and, it's still gonna kill. It's still gonna hurt, but it does cut the pain a little bit, cuts the pressure when it hits your skate, it has an extra layer of protection. So, that's probably one thing I'd let them know. We've told them that, but, you can't really change anything the way you play, because that'll take away a little bit from what he does. So I think just taking care of yourself when you do get hurt, or something happens, make sure you're doing the proper rehab and listen to the guys in the training room, and to heal quicker and get back quicker.
You were more of a one knee down shot blocker, if I remember, right? Like you turn sideways, you're a right hand shot defenseman, so you would put your left knee down, I believe. That's the way you blocked a lot of shots.
Yeah, well, yeah, either or, right? No, actually, you know what? I'd actually turn the other way. So
yeah, okay.
You're facing, but
yeah,
like I would kind of go towards my backhand. So my backhand of my stick would be showing out. So
you're protecting the middle of the ice with your stick and dropping your right knee down. But okay, so if you had to do it again, would you say there's a preferred method of blocking shots? Is that the way? I remember Mike Hurlbut in Rochester. The guy would put one knee and sometimes even 2 knee downs and just like eat the shot right in the chest. Like, is there a part of your body that you're like, okay, it doesn't feel too bad to get hit there?
Well, so when I went down on the one knee, I like getting hit kind of from the ground up to about maybe just like the waistline, because you got all your pants there, right? Like that whole area where your pants are. Even if you get hit in the rear end, it doesn't hurt as much, right? There's nothing, just meat there, right? So where anywhere it hits you in the meat is good. Anywhere it connects with bone or on your skate, that one's gonna hurt for a little while.
You had the elbow one year. It was like you had a triple bump on the right elbow, I believe. Like that, that can't feel good.
No, that was in Carolina. I remember that. The guy hit just above the elbow pad, and then I don't know, like they're pretty much like, yeah, you're good to go. So like I couldn't even like hold my stick, but I didn't retire that long ago, but I feel like they're a lot more safer with their guys now. like I know I probably played through way more things than I like, not because of the trainers, because of me, how I was. Like I probably should have took a few more days off. Who knows what would be going on right now? But it's hard these days, right? You're looking at longevity, and a lot of the guys I play with were like, hey, next game, next game, next game. And sometimes like, hey, these young guys like, hey, it's okay to miss a few, to heal up properly and not make anything worse.
Fair to assume that both of you, though, would have experienced a bruise or worse early in the season and then found that it just keeps getting hit and hit and hit as the season goes on. How do you navigate that? Because I'm envisioning you with this arm, this elbow thing, and it just keeps, for whatever stupid reason, it probably just keeps getting dinged up, right?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. You could see it. Like, I actually think it might've happened to Sammy this year. He got hit in his foot, and then like maybe 3 games later, or we first came back, like he got hit right in the same spot again. Like, it's inevitable, but, for actually the elbow, I think I actually did get hit again there, which is a miracle, but I know I got shot. I got hit in the right at the top of the kneecap, and it cracked it a little bit. But like, we're like, hey, it's good, it's fine. And it, was hurting a little bit. And then, about like a month later, I'm like, man, I don't know if it's getting better or not, whatever. So we took another x-ray, and like, literally it looked like a hangnail off my tip of my kneecap. It was just a little slit. And now it was like a piece was hanging off. I'm like, so I guess it could get worse. And, obviously just kept pounding on it, getting hit. And it's one of those things, like just how much you can handle, and hopefully you don't get hit there again. Like you said, just the years are long, playoffs feel even longer because you're every other day and there's no rest.
Can you teach the shot blocking? Because I remember James Patrick was our assistant coach in Buffalo, and once in a while he'd put the full gear on and we'd come up with the orange, like a soft box, like that you play outside with. And he would Mike Ramsey did the same thing actually, and would like teach guys to slide on 2-on-1s, or how to position themselves to block shots. So can you teach shot blocking, or is it natural?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think you could give, tips and techniques of, reading the play and realizing where shot lanes are on the ice and where guys are. But a little bit's natural, because it's, you got to not be, it's sad to say, you don't want to have too much thinking about it, right? If you're always thinking about eating a puck, you're going to be in between and not be in the right spot. And that was for me, like, no matter how much a shot hurt, like you had to just keep playing and just like, hey, next shot's coming. I'm staring at Ovi on the other circle. I'm not going to eat this right in the rear end again. But, it's just all about timing and taking, like you said earlier about me taking away the inside, taking away that far side, right? We always talked about with Hank, and, making sure.
You were just trying to win a bottle of wine. You just want to win the wine lottery, because when Lundqvist had a shutout, he would buy 4 nice bottles of wine, and then he'd have the wine lottery on the plane on the next trip. Yeah. Did you win?
I think I won a couple times. That's a long, not many in 11 years though.
and the impact that you had too.
Yeah. Tough luck with the draw there for sure.
Is there a preferred distance as a defender that you hope to be in when it comes to blocking a shot? Like, do you know instantly you're in no man's land and like, this is really bad?
I found that the closer I was to the guy, better, because, if the guy's teeing up from way out towards the blue line and I'm kind of at the hash marks, like that puck could be rising very quickly into my neck, which I got hit with one when I was with Tampa, right in the back of the neck. But the closer it is, it's just gonna, it's still coming really hard, but at least it's not going to go rising towards your head area. So that was always the hardest. But that, knock on wood, that rarely happens where the puck's really rising. Guys are so good, they know where they're putting that puck. And even towards the end of my career, guys pretty much read me a lot. They know I was out there blocking shots, so they would shoot it past me, or a little, like, maybe try a little harder to pick a different corner. But I found that, the closer you are, it has less chance of rising up into a bad area.
Well, we saw so many times this year, Marty, because we're tracking it with the real-time data. How many times did we look at Thompson blister 198 plus?
Yeah.
And that defender, not unlike what you watched all the time in practice with Stamkos and in games, man, it's just, it's a frightening spot to be in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you said, though, you just said it, but you can't think of it that way, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like you just said it. Like if I'm thinking like, oh my God, this guy's gonna go 100 miles an hour right at me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be in the way. I'm
And when did that start for you though? This fearlessness, like, was it always part of your game from the lowest level?
Well, it's no secret when Torts got to the Rangers after Tom Rennie got let go halfway through the, I think maybe the 08, 09 year or something like that. But, he really was preaching that method. And I think it actually kind of excelled me to the next level, kind of gave me something different that some guys don't do, right? Like a lot of NHL guys, all the mid-range guys kind of do the same thing, not in a bad way, but they're really good. So then you got your elite guys that are scorers, top guys with the dish and pucks and vision, and guys like myself that made a name for myself eating pucks for a living. Not a lot of guys do that, consistently and know where to be on the ice, but guys are willing to do it. But sometimes coming up in this league, you got to find some way to separate yourself. And that's what I tell my 12-year-olds when I coach. You got to find a way to separate yourself. All you guys look the same on the ice. They're all 12 years old, looking the same. Like what can you bring to the team or the game? It's different from someone else. So I feel like that's what I kind of realized and did. And, it helped me have a nice long career.
Well, Danny, people have to know also, you were undrafted. You played for the Welland Cougars in the GHL, and then, the Barrie Colts. You played with Guelph London. You were a 4-year, but you played as an overager, 20-year-old in the OHL. You played in the East Coast League in Charlotte a few games. You were in Hartford. You earned yourself a pro contract. Like, is that you played over 900 games in the NHL? Is that a source of pride to say, look, like there's people now that are comparing other players that I didn't get drafted and I had to really work for everything. Do you feel pretty good about that?
Yeah, I definitely do feel good of how my path went and came and went. It's a good story to tell some of the kids out there. Obviously there's going to be some high end talent, first round, second round draft picks, just get her going, right? The later round guys like myself, able to dig down deep and figure it out. And, I know I don't really know many of the names, but I could think of guys in my Guelph team and London team that were probably better than me, or maybe had a better shot, but maybe they just didn't want to keep it going, or they didn't want, maybe they didn't get lucky enough to have a shot like I did. Like I got lucky, like maybe I don't think the Rangers like Kasparaitis anymore or something. They sent him down to Hartford, and that gave me my chance to go up. We crossed paths in the Hartford locker room, and that was the end of it. After I went
that's
up,
good, because we don't like Kasparaitis in Buffalo anyway.
Yeah.
So that's
well,
good,
I don't know. It's actually, I actually saw him too at the,
I saw him too.
And he goes, "Hey, remember when you went up to Hartford and I came down?" I was dying. Like, it's so funny. The poor guy still remembers that, eh? So, like I said, everything's got to kind of, luckily fall into place, or you get a right opportunity and you take advantage of it. And, it is good to have this story. I could, tell some of the kids I coach, and that there's other ways to get there. There's ways of, you can go this way, go that way. There's so many different leagues out there now that kids are going to. You can find a way.
One of the most honest conversations we had on the podcast this year was with Dominic Hasek, when the evolution of goalie gear, went a little crazy and ballooned, and he had no problem telling us the places where he decided to cheat, to match what Patrick Wall was doing and all the others. It's thought of less as cheating when you're in the position that you're in. Now, Craig Ludwig took it to an extreme. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
with his widened shin pads. But what other areas, other than that protectiveness, that protective layer that you were adding on the boot late in the career, what other areas were you constantly finicky with, as far as adding a little bit here, a little bit there, to try to give yourself a little more protection night in, night out?
Yeah, I think the biggest spot, like you said, it's not cheating, because I can't make my shin pads any bigger than they are. Like Craig Ludwig, those are pretty deadly shin pads though. The one spot that always got me, and I think actually Sammy might have got hit there, is just above the skate and shin pad hole. So the shin pad comes down and then your skate meets it, and there's a little bit of gray area there where sometimes if you're leaning forward, it's not covered. So I know in New York, a couple of times I got hit there. So I put a tiny little flap there. So it kind of just sit there. So when you go down on one knee, like Marty described, like it would cover that area. So that I got hit a couple of times there, cut me, looked like Kurt Schilling's sock on the mound. Like it was pretty funny. So got a couple there. So I feel like that's like the one spot that doesn't have coverage that, that you need to maybe keep in mind.
I want to tell the story of Glenn Sater, good old Slats, coming into our locker room after Erik Karlsson cut his Achilles tendon in a game with the Ottawa Senators. Slats walks in, starts yelling at everybody, more like practice, just a regular morning. We don't have a game that night. I want everybody in here to wear Kevlar socks. Like everybody's got to wear Kevlar socks. If you don't wear them, I'm going to fire Cass, the equipment manager. Like I can't trade you guys. I can't fire you, but I'll fire the trainer if you don't wear it. Did you guys see that kid Carlson in Quebec City last night? He got his tendon cut and we're like, Slats, there hasn't been a team in Quebec City in 20 years. Like, what are you talking about? But those were things that Glenn thought of, like the padding that protected the top of the hand. After Callie broke his hand, he made our trainer basically add protection to the gloves overnight. He worked through the night, so the next day they'd be on. Well, did you wear the Kevlar socks after Slats came in and told everybody to do it?
I still wore the Kevlar socks from that time on. I still wore the cut proof socks the whole time from the last game of my career. So I did that. Another, I don't know if you remember, I'm not sure if you're there or not, but it was kind of the same thing about the gloves with Callahan. Glenn found a pair of Mark Messier's old gloves.
Oh my God, yes.
And the cuffs were, can you see my arm? The cuffs were up to here.
Yeah.
The protection.
He had step on.
Yeah, there was no wrist flexion, nothing. Like it was just robotic out there. Eh? So I just remember that too. And, but again, though, like that, I actually think the Rangers are one of the first to start putting those custom skate guards on. They had the laser cutter in the back doing all that stuff. And now you see it mostly on all the guys' skates that, want to. So, I think Glenn was great for that though. He really cared. He didn't want to see that many of the guys get hurt like that. And that's funny. You remember that.
Marty, this won't surprise you at all, but it is worth, emphasizing for our audience. Between 2012 and 2018, there was only one defenseman in the league that played more playoff games than our guest today. That was his teammate, Ryan McDonough. Mm-hmm. Ryan played 108 games over that stretch in the playoffs. Dan played 107. Carl Hagelin led the way with 121. The point is, Dan, with your, 900 plus regular season games, 143 playoff games, like you've already mentioned the word consistent. What else allowed you, especially in those playoff games, to be able to be there night in, night out for your teammates?
Well, you gotta, like you said, you gotta have a pretty good training staff, number one, to make sure you're ready. And I don't know, like I didn't took any pain pills or anything like that. Just like a nice little Tylenol or Advil. So I wasn't a big believer in that stuff. So, it's not like once you kind of get warmed up and warm up and get out there, like your body's already warm and feeling good. It's like an hour after the game where the adrenaline wears off and everything is hurting. And I just think it really, playoff time and pretty much, regular season, it happens a lot, but the playoff time, like you gotta, every little tiny play matters. That's where I felt like I was trying to be as consistent as I can. Like you said, in the playoffs, like every little, I didn't make too many fancy plays, but it was always a nice, smart decision, the best I could, right up or over to Mac or, always try to realize like, hey, this play matters and try to make the best play you could and a nice hard play. So, I don't really know what I can say that really helped me along the way to keep me somewhat healthy and, being night in, night out. But I think just trying to, be smart, with your body away from the rink and stuff like that. So that's all I got for you.
So you were a development coach and then the Sabres make the change a year and a half ago now. You end up buying the bench with Matty Ellis and Don Granato. Now the Sabres coaching staff with Jason Christie, Marty Wilford, Matty Ellis and Donnie, obviously. You move back to development. how was your time behind the bench as a coach? Because you always were a bit of a talker, but a little bit of I would say a quiet talker at the right time. How was that behind the bench for you?
I absolutely loved it. And I actually think the guys did too, because I did, let's be honest, you weren't in a really great spot when we took over. It was a really tough season. So I tried to do my best to keep the boys, excited every day and a little bit loose, like not so like, oh my God, we're gonna lose this game. Oh my God, that like, I never played that way. I like to keep it even keel and have fun. But like you just said, at the right times, dial it in, turn it on, find the right time to say something. And, even this season here, like, I actually don't do any development at all with the young guys. I actually, I'm on the coaching staff, but just, I don't travel. So, I'm not sure if this is a common knowledge or not, but so that's why I'm in the room. Like, that's why I come out for practice, Marty, when you're there.
Yeah.
And, pretty much when Buffalo's home, I'm there, and I got my own little spot in the coach's room. And, I pretty much just show up and Marty's like, hey, let's go over the D clips, or, someone's like, hey, can you check out this or work with this guy at practice? So I kind of just show up and, figure out where they need me that day. And
you're like a player coach type, but you're not playing and you're not coaching. So you're doing both, but you're not doing both.
And you know what? I think it's a very unique role, because even when I talked to Kevin Adams, like, we really don't have a title for it. Like, there's no really known title. So it's a very unique role. And I actually really got to thank Kevin and Donnie for that, because they realized, like, I want to be there, but I also retired for a reason, and be able to spend time with my kids and do stuff with it. My son's hockey, my daughter's horseback riding. And, so they've been absolutely amazing. Even the Pergulas too, they know kind of the situation, and it's been really actually amazing the last 2 years that they've let me, do this. But I told them, like, I want to be here. So I know this thing's turning around, and it's exciting to watch these guys and how they act. And at the rink, I feel like I do bring a different feel sometimes. Like, Marty knows me at practice, and, like I said, I get the work done, but I also like to have a good time and make sure everyone's not like just army serious, and like have a little bit of fun. And, I think I do bring that, because then the coaches kind of just coach and not have to worry about, making a joke here or there. So it's definitely a very unique role. And I like, I really enjoy doing it.
What do you see?
So there was a video, Duffer, quickly. There was a video of you coming off the bench where you were trying to give a fist bump. I don't remember who the backup goaltender was, but you got like the cold shoulder, and you kind of put your hands down and shook your head going off the ice. Like, I saved it because we saw it go into commercial, and I remember sending it to Mike Bales. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. But that's why that's why I thought it was hilarious. So it was Linus. It was Linus on the bench. And then I remember I tried to give him a pound, and I didn't. I kind of, did the one like to myself and like shook my head like, all right. So like Linus was really choked up about it. Like, he thought I was like so mad. Like I'm like, number one, there's no one in the stands, so no one even saw it. But I'm like, I go, buddy, it's fine. Like, I love it. Like, I think it's hilarious. Like, everyone sent it to me too. And, I came in the room, Miles had it teed up on the video room there. Like, oh man, that was awesome. That's what I mean. Like, I love that stuff.
So how would you describe Dahlin?
Unbelievable hockey player and professional, like on and off the ice. I think when we took over last year, he wasn't himself. It didn't look like, because I played against him for a year, and elite hockey player. And then you just saw the growth from, sometimes it gets frustrated during the play and it's quite noticeable, a stick slam or, something like that. But I felt like, we talked to him as a staff, and I think he's taken that next step this year, a little bit more relaxed, less pressure on himself, just go out and play. And he had an unbelievable season, and he's matured so much off the ice too. He's becoming a leader now, in the gym and with the guys, and the guys respect him because he's an elite hockey player, and obviously, and a great guy off the ice. So, he's kind of figuring out that role now too. And you could just tell he's excited every day to come to the rink. He wants to always learn. He's like, what do you got for me today? What do we want? What are we doing today? What do we got in video? What do we got in practice? Like, he always wants to get better and better. And, that's a true sign of an elite hockey player that's not never satisfied of what he's doing or how good his game was. He always wants to get better.
Does he have some Danny G traits in the fact that he drives it. He rolls in on a scooter. That's something I think you would have done, like rolling in a scooter. I heard that he may have forgotten his dress shoes in a meeting one time and walked in sneakers and his suit to a game. Like, this is something you would have done. Does he got some Danny G trait in him?
No, I definitely think that scooter thing was awesome. If I would have signed back again in Tampa for one more year, I was you could ride a jet ski to the rink on the water where I live, and you can go, like, that was the next level. But I was actually only I know you're talking about when he showed up with his running shoes on and everything, but I had one incident in Washington where I slept in, got in a cab. I'm like, hey, we gotta hurry. We gotta go to the Verizon Center. Or I don't know what it was then. It changed the names like 10 times, but and then he pulls up, and I'm like, I'm looking, I know where I'm supposed to be. He goes, all right, here we're here. I'm like, buddy, I said Verizon Center. He goes, oh, you didn't say convention center? So we're like 5 blocks away. I'm panicking. And I think it was towards the coach. And luckily we didn't have a meeting in the morning, just 11:30 skate, and that's it. So if there was a meeting, I was done. But I paid my fine, and then that was the only time I was late in my entire career.
Is there a fine system in place in the Sabres room right now?
I'm sure there is. You know what? The good thing is, I'm still like chirping the guys, but hey, they got their own system. I don't know what Okie has them doing, or Gussie or any of those guys. I don't, I feel like I'm closer to the guys, but when it comes to the personal team only stuff in the room, I got no temperature of what's going on there. But I'll throw my 2 cents in once in a while in the room. But when it comes to that group, they got it taken care of, those guys.
Is there a fine system in the coach's room?
Yeah. There's a little, we got a couple things going on there. I can't talk about it too much out here because I'm not sure what the rules are, but we got our own little, it's literally just a mini dressing room in there. The guy, like, that coach's room is pretty unique, and a lot of great guys in there. Like, I've never been in a coach's room except for last year, but from judging, like, I don't know if they function like this. This one's amazing. Like, there's no egos in there. No one thinks they're better than him because Donnie's the head coach, but I'm just a random assistant guy sitting in the room. Like, he respects me, and everyone's working together and pulling the same direction. It's so much fun to show up to work in the morning, and we talk about last night's game, or what's going on in the league, and then it turns to minor hockey talk in about 30 minutes. All our kids are playing, and a couple of the guys have kids of the junior Sabres, and I'm on this side. We're always talking about tournaments and ice times, and then it's so much fun in there.
Random assistant guy. I think that's on the business card next. I like it.
Oh, definitely. That's I'll tell Kevin that's my new title.
Hey, are there any misconceptions out there about Don Granato? I mean, the way you just described him and what it's like in the coaching room was probably what most people would have assumed based on what we've seen in the last 18 months, especially. But is there something else we should know about him?
I just think he works so hard to give the guys a game plan and pre-scout. Like, everyone, we got the video guys in the back doing it, but Donnie does a lot of his own stuff. He has like these hard drives that have, I don't know when these games are from. Like, he has games upon games, and he watches so much video to, for tendencies and how we can improve. And, when he talks in the room and shows his clips, I'm like, wow. Like, I feel like I know a lot about hockey, but like, I'm like, wow, this guy's hockey mind is another level. And I'm actually learning a lot from him that I think the other guys are too, of how you could see the game in a different perspective. And, like I said, I'm learning so much in the last year and a half here about, different concepts of the game that I've never seen. Like, I did never play D how our D play D, how we teach them how to angle guys and surf and do all these terms. I'm like, I literally skated straight back, kept them to the outside, and ate a puck. Like, that was like the extent of my defense. So it's so cool to learn all these new things. And, I'm learning stuff, and who knows, I'm hoping to tell some of my kids one day, like all my team, like, hey, think the game like this and try this because it might help. Because the game is changing a little bit in that direction of more, better skating D-man, not so much, stand there and direct traffic. Like there's a lot of movement and you got to be able to skate and move your feet, and it's pretty unique.
So because you're the random assistant coach, I had the assumption that you went to maybe see Owen Power at Michigan last year, but obviously when he came to Buffalo and you got to work with him a little bit at the end of the season, what is your first impression of the big man on D?
Wow. like it's pretty crazy. This kid, plays in the Olympics, plays in Michigan, a little bit of the World Juniors too, just like gets like a hat trick or something, like no big deal, right? Like
yeah.
It's pretty crazy how good some of these kids are. Like and again, he's another one like Dolls, like I said, like he just wanted to, I couldn't even get him off the ice. Like I'd start picking up pucks and like, okay, pick up 2, pick up 4. Like I want to go home one day here. Like I got stuff to do at home, but he just, I was out there a bunch of times in the Harbor Center with him, like, really didn't like show him anything too much, but like, he was like, hey, throw me a rim or give me a pass here. And he was just trying different movements. And I just laughed. Like you watch him practice and I'll do the after practice stuff. And I watch up top or watch the game on TV. Like you see it right in the game when he's trying a different move, like, a fake shot, go around the guy. Like he worked on that 50 times after practice. Like all this stuff is so natural for this kid. And he sees the game. He's got poise for days. You can't teach that. Yeah, I can go on and on. Like if you're not excited about our decor, I don't know what you're thinking about hockey. Like this decor is absolutely legit, and we're so excited.
And it takes all kinds. So how would you view or describe someone like Henry Jokiharju in the midst of all this?
I was already thinking about an answer because I knew you're going to bring up Yoki. So I'm like, who's next? Oh man, again, just another unreal guy too. Like this guy competes so hard. One thing that we do really well in Buffalo is our practices. You've seen them, right? They're hard. They're not like bag skate hard. It's just every drill is hard reps, competitive. That's how we play with a lot of pace. He's a guy that drives a practice. Like he loves messing with the forwards, killing plays, ruining the drill for the forwards. And, he's definitely another guy that's taken the next step in his career. With, like he said, he's shut down D-man, can play the power play, can kill penalties. He blocks shots, a lot like he does the one knee like G-Money a little bit there. And, again, it's endless. Like these guys, their potential is just to the sky. They're all so young still. They're learning from all the guys in the room that we got in the coach's room, and obviously learning from a couple of great older guys like Oki and Gussie. I don't know where next year will hold for him, but he's definitely taken the next step in his career.
Well, I mean, there's others. There's going to be, the Get Johnson, who's Johnson. It's not Johnson, it's Johnson.
Johnson.
That will be coming. There's others.
It's a hard J.
Hard J. I usually add just plenty of S's at the end of everybody's name, and it makes
right.
or I called Owen Austin Powers on the first broadcast of his first NHL game. So that's all right. But you've got other young kids that are coming through. So you talk about your son and you guys talk about minor hockey a lot. How do you feel with the fact that these young NHL hockey players are closer in age to your kids, and they probably associate better to your son than they do to you and how you talk to them?
Oh yeah, there's no question. Like probably like my son's a 2010, so probably there, and then I guess older probably know who I am. The younger kids I talk to, they're probably just like my dad told me this guy played NHL, so I gotta believe him. So none of those kids really know, probably never see me play. I'll come back to your question in a second, but yeah. I was in Boston for a spring tournament for my son, and there was the team from Jersey, so they had a bunch of Ranger fans on there. And I go meet the family, and then the 2 teenage boys are just in shock because they watched me play probably in the playoffs and whatever. There was one kid, he was like 7 or 8, he's like zero clue who I was. So that's my point. Like the older kids, like you said, probably the teenagers, watch me play. but then talking to the younger kids, they have no idea who I am. And it is funny when you talk like that, like, Owen Power, I don't know, he's 19 or something. Like, yeah, my son's like 12. So that age gap is very close. And, even Ellie's son, Hayden, like they're right there. Like they're almost OHL draft now. It's like time is just absolutely flying. I know you got kids too, Murray. It's great. It's insane how everything's changing, and I love hockey, but it's pretty crazy.
I remember my first year in New York, Derek Stepan was 20. So we're talking about 2010. My son Jacob was 6 at the time, and I was 33. So there was 14 years difference between Step and Jacob, and there was 13 and a half years difference between Step and myself. Like, I'm like, he's the perfect like middle book between me and my son. Like that's pretty crazy. So he could have played video game with either one of us and would have felt the same way. So
it's awesome just being around all the kids that at least know who you are. And, at least, when I talk in the room or practice, at least the kids respect it because they figured, hey, I played, I must know what I'm talking about. So it's pretty cool. And I tell them like, hey, listen, I coach in the NHL too, right? So I kind of know what I'm talking about. It's like, I throw a couple jabs here and there just to make sure they're still listening,
Speaking of that, are you surprised that Marty St. Louis is now a full-time head coach of the Montreal Canadiens?
Nope. As soon as I hired him, I knew he's one of the most passionate guys about the game I've ever played with. I know he only coached, the Connecticut Junior Rangers or something like that, or Mid-Fairfield, whatever they're called. But I just know his passion for the game, and I actually watched him coach a game when I was in Florida. His team came and played the Florida Alliance there, and I watched him. It's just the passion he has and his hockey knowledge. Kind of like a guy like Donnie. Obviously, Donnie has so many more years in coaching than Marty, but it just you can see the way he thinks the game. And again, I know they weren't doing very well, but when he came, like you just tell the level of respect that he had in the room, the energy he brought. The more like relax, go play, and he's a perfect fit for there. He's a guy from that area. Had a great career. Small guy, but battled hard, like all these perfect traits for a job like that. And, I think he said something in this interview, like he's not a substitute teacher. He's here for a while. So like, that mentality that he has, that's what he was thinking. He's like, I'm not just filling in, I'm in. So as soon as he said that, I was like, well, this guy's the best. I love Marty. He's awesome. And I'm excited to see what he does with that team.
I've got a few this or that. So Duffer, I don't know if you, okay. So very easy. G Money, as self-proclaimed G Money. It's not self-proclaimed. We used to call you Danny G Money.
Yeah,
same
whatever,
difference. Yeah. Okay, so you played in the OHL, but you've got a bunch of your young defensemen that played college. So this or that, if somebody came to you right now and said, should I go Canadian Major Junior or Division I US college? This or that? What would be the one you would pick?
Oh my God. I just talked about this in the car with my wife on the way home from Montreal. Wow. I gotta say, be surprised. I gotta say college.
Yeah. I think a lot of us that went the major junior route almost feel like we missed out on something. The college experience and all of that. I wasn't sure
if I was allowed to elaborate on my answer, but I just feel like, you're getting into a good routine there, and you're getting your school. You train all week and you play on the weekend. Like you feel like you're just like, I almost want to say like more of a man when you come out of there. You're playing against older guys. You're coming a little bit later, depending on, your status and your skill level or, whatever round you're drafted in. But you always got that education to fall back on too. I know in, OHL, after my career, I could have went to, I went the CIAU route and went to Brock locally here in Niagara here. But I feel like I visited Minnesota. We played a game there with my son's Tampa team. Just the level of professionalism and the facilities they have there, it's like nothing I've seen.
Yeah, it's like NHL and some even better than NHL teams. That's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, Minnesota
Um,
was better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you're a Canadian guy, live on the across the border, but you played in the States. So Tim Hortons coffee or Starbucks? Like, what's your go-to in the morning? This or that?
Well, that's a hard one because I get different things at both places.
You have double runs?
Yeah, well, if I'm going just straight a nice dark roast or something, I'm going to Timmy's. But I do Starbucks is my cappuccino spot. I get my cappuccinos as a pregame cappuccino stop. So again, here though in Canada, probably there's a Timmy's in every corner. So probably gotta say Timmy Hose.
Okay. Because your nickname is G Money, it makes me always think of the G Wagon. So cars, and I don't remember what you drove when, probably because we never really used our cars in Manhattan, but sports car or the comfortable SUV sedans, this or that?
These are good ones because I have like a lot, like probably early in my career, sports car. I had a Bentley at one point. But I drive a nice big Ford Raptor, Velociraptor, it's called, from Hennessy. So I'm probably gonna have to go the SUV route then. I'm like it's like a family truck, but it's still fast.
Oh, it's still okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's got some jump under that hood.
Duffer, I don't know if you have anything that comes up to mind. That
No, but I was up Dan's way yesterday and saw that it was $1.99 a liter. So I'm feeling your pain in that Raptor Velocisaurus.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The premium, the straight premium is it's not pretty. Just think of me driving that rig 7 hours to Boston and back, and same to Montreal. So
holy cow.
Yeah. Use my hotel points, I guess, use to pay for the hotel, use the points.
Okay, well, so I don't know the truth whether your G Money is like self-proclaimed or not. It was kind of ambiguous the way you guys were answered. But can either of you identify someone who had the best self-proclaimed nickname during your time as a player?
Oh man,
I have one, but it's I played with him at the World Juniors, and I don't know if you remember Christopher Colanos, Arizona.
I know the name. Yeah,
he called himself Special K. Like he would literally say, "You can call me Special K." I'm like, "What?" Oh yeah, I'm Special K. That was his nickname. That self-proclaimed nickname. So yes.
I don't know. I gotta say that I'm sure Brandon Dubinsky at some point put some kind of self-proclaimed the good old Dubes or something. I don't know. I don't even know. But I don't really know anyone that's really like I don't think mine's self-proclaimed, but I just use it.
No.
I talk about myself quickly, but it's not. I can't think of it at the top of my head, but yeah, that's a tough one to swallow if you give yourself your own nickname and it actually sticks. So that's tough.
Quickly, this or that, because you blocked a ton of shots, you talked to the equipment guys all the time about your gear, but you were in the medical room a lot. So if you just had to walk into the rink and you didn't have to really have any business with your medical guy or your equipment manager, this or that, the medical room or the equipment room?
Probably the medical room.
Mostly because of Rammer, right? So Jim Ramsey in New York was.
I put not only did I went in there, but I did spend some time in there, quite a bit of time. So, but you know what, I was always a guy that tried to treat everyone with respect, and so I'd go say, because at the training center in New York, you walk in, you're right by Cass and all those guys, and you make sure you go say hi to everyone. So I'll be a nice guy, and I would go say hi to the training facility guys, and then I'd go say hi to the equipment guys. So
were you there when Torts walked into the trainer room and he was wondering who was on the massage table, and it was Del Zotto, and he could not believe that a 21-year-old player who played 12 minutes the night before was first on the massage table and just lost his mind?
Yeah, that Torts is, I love Torts like that. He had one. I actually might have been like my elbow injury we talked about. I remember I went out for practice and like, hey, you good to go? I'm like, just gonna, I'm gonna see how it feels. He goes, well, either you're hurt or you're injured. Are you gonna practice or you're gonna get off? I go, well, I don't know how I'm gonna feel, so I guess I'll get off the ice. So he's always like, because you're hurt or you're injured. Like it was always a funny, he was very black and white with stuff like that. It wasn't like there was zero gray area in anything he did, and that's why a lot of some people didn't like John. I love Torts because he would just let you know what he thought. You knew where you stood, and it was great.
Yeah. Awesome. Great story to end with. Dan, thank you. And we look forward to doing this again down the road. Enjoy.
We'll get you some new business cards. Random assistant coach, Dan Girardi.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
See you, Dan. Thanks.
Yeah.
I can see why you loved him as a teammate. He is a fun guy who I just, I can't stress enough. Like, we sometimes forget when we're going through these decades, the prominent names or less than prominent names that kind of appear and reappear every spring. And that's what Girardi did. He was always there. I mean, it was so impressive to see him rack up the number of games the way he did with some very, very good teams. So why don't we keep the focus on our 3 stars for this week, Marty, on maybe some defensemen that are still going in the Stanley Cup playoffs that we don't hear from or about every single day.
Okay, so the first one that I am going to bring up, and he's a young defenseman, but obviously with the play of Cale Makar with the Colorado Avalanche, you may not talk as much about Bowen Biron. Like, wow, like he looks good right now. He's a young, just starting defenseman, was hurt and out of the lineup for a part of the season, but has looked so good in the playoffs. So I want people to pay attention to a Bowen Biron in Colorado and how good that D group is, obviously, but with him, it's great. Another younger guy who is also playing a second type of secondary role with the New York Rangers is Keandre Miller. Mm-hmm. I mean, so complete, right? He can be physical. He has great reach, as Dan Girardi talked about, like the reach of Matthias Samuelsson. Keandre Miller has the same thing, kills plays in the corner. I think he's one that we should be expecting really big things from for a while. And then, I mean, I guess I'm going to go to Jacob Trouba, just because the art of throwing a big body check is almost lost. Open ice, like the hitting happens on the wall. And now it's 3 times in these playoffs that he's hit somebody in open ice, Crosby, Domi, and Seth Jarvis. But he has that change or that difference-making hit ability in games that not a lot of defensemen have. And I think he's one to continue to pay attention as the Rangers keep going.
It's funny how and why names stand out. And think about what you're saying right now about Trouba and how he's not at all the player that was mentioned earlier in the podcast, but the name Darius Kasparaitis came up.
Yeah.
And nobody liked playing against Kasparaitis. It's completely different, but they play the same position. And there's something to be said about having a reputation when you play that position, right? And Trouba is, you're right. He's garnered more attention. He's had a career year, but he's not in the Makar and Fox conversation of the world. But I mean, obviously I'm in 100% agreement with the names that you mentioned. I think with Biron, it's just, we're thankful that he's playing after playing less than half of this year and being just, surrounded in uncertainty as far as his immediate future and long-term. And the numbers are just so wonderful to watch right now. Evan Bouchard's been really good in many respects for the Oilers, but more so just to see him in this moment and to project what is still to come. That's what I love about watching him. Manson, of course, was a very talked about deadline acquisition. I think Josh has done everything presumably. And look, there's, as Girardi would tell you, that you're not going to come out of these games ever feeling like you had a perfect game. But Manson's of the ability to just let all of those tough plays roll off of him, and you know exactly what you're going to get from him. So I'm always in admiration of players like that. So that makes it really tough to kind of narrow down one last one. But if we're going to talk about Tampa and the Rangers, and we're not going to talk about your former teammate in McDonough, and we're not going to talk about Hedman, like let's give a little bit more love to Sergachev, because just the way that they're balanced. And when you look at the bottom grouping of defensemen on Tampa, their minutes are so low in contrast to the top 3 guys. Like, what do you say about Sergachev at this point in time in his career, where he is in this moment?
I think there's still some growth, but
Which is pretty impressive, right?
It's really impressive because he's from the time he was drafted, everybody thought, man, this guy is going to be really, really something, but it has to get there. And he fell into a really good situation that he has Hedman, McDonough, and Chernak, and even Bogosian, and he's got guys to really work off of. But I eventually think he is going to be a top 4 stud. And right now plays a third pairing type role, but I think he's a top 4 stud, and it's just there on the cusp of happening.
Yeah, man. Like I sit here and have this conversation and hear from you as a teammate of a guy who was willing to block those shots. And I just think of every time, and we're seeing Tampa going for a 3-peat, but anytime there's a new team that emerges as a Stanley Cup winner, you start picking apart, how did they do it? And it's usually like with this group of 6, and guys start earning accolades where they didn't have them before because people just didn't pay enough attention to the details that all these guys bring. So really wonderful opportunity to have Girardi on with us this week. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I just think of so many stories now of plane, trains, automobile, whatever, like all these. He was inseparable with Ryan Callahan, and those two have a weird sense of humor. Sometimes you're like, what are they talking about? But just to see his little smirk as he's telling a story, if you got to watch it on the Sabres YouTube channel, or if you're listening to it, go back and find it, because that smirk tells a ton about Dan Girardi.
We smiled a lot. We thank you for being with us. Thanks to our friends at Seneca Resorts and Casinos. We'll see you next week on the Instigators Overtime podcast.